If you've clicked on this video, then I know that you care about your kids probably more than anything else. And I can suspect that it's tearing you apart that they're going through this divorce along with you. That's probably the biggest pain point I see for a lot of my clients is they can handle to some degree their suffering, but to see the impact it's having on their kids is almost unbearable. So in this video, I want to help you understand what your child is actually experiencing as they go through this divorce. And through that understanding, I'm going to try to help you develop the tools and the skills to be the parent that they need you to be, to show up for them in the ways they need you to, because despite what the statistics say, this divorce doesn't have to define anything for your children. It's not the divorce itself that creates all of the cascade of problems we see in children of divorce, of not doing well in school, of not having healthy patterns in relationships. That's not from the divorce. That's from the way their parents respond to the divorce. It is when we are no longer able to be there emotionally safe and available for kids. That's when those struggles start to happen. That's when they start to have damage to their attachment forms. That's when they learn that it's not safe to be in a relationship. It's not from watching what's going on with you and your ex-wife. It's from the way you are interacting with them on a day-to-day basis. And for most people, going through all of the stress and pain of divorce and then the guilt of seeing the impact it has on your kids makes it really, really difficult to be fully present, engaged, and emotionally available to your kids. And then when they start acting out, when they start misbehaving, being angry, throwing tantrums, it's so easy to get caught up into your own anger and respond with punishment or trying to control or change their behavior. So the intention of this video is to give you a deeper understanding of what's happening internally for your children during this divorce so that you can really give them what you want, which is their best possible chance at the best possible future for themselves. If you don't know me yet, I'm Rachael Sloan. I'm a master NLP practitioner and a certified life coach, and I work with divorced men in my coaching program, Better Beyond Divorce. And I help them do the same things I'm trying to help you guys do here in these videos. I help them make sense of the past. I help them understand themselves and other people so that they can live their best lives going forward and also create the best opportunities for their families. There are a couple of big mindset shifts we need to make around children if we're going to understand them after divorce. The first big mindset shift is we have to stop focusing on behaviors and focus instead on emotion. And this can be hard because the behaviors are what we see, right? We see them not doing well in school, we see them getting in trouble, we see them picking fights, we see them engaging in all sorts of harmful behaviors. Right? We see them laying on the floor throwing a tantrum. Of course you want to change the behavior, but the behavior is just a symptom of an emotion. So emotions exist to drive action. Emotions are very important and they're very powerful. Anger, for instance, it is there to motivate us, to drive us to protect ourselves, to say, hey, stop, you cannot come in here and hurt me. Anger allows us to form healthy boundaries. It allows us to protect ourselves and fight back and stand up for ourselves. We need anger. This is true for every emotion we have. Those emotions exist to push us, to make us take actions to protect ourselves, to seek love and support, to stay connected, basically to survive as a human being in the world. But so often we tell our children that their emotions aren't valid, that they shouldn't feel that way. Don't be angry. We punish them for how they feel and then how they act because of that feeling. In fact, that's probably what many of you experienced as a child, being told that certain emotions that you felt that came up naturally in you were not appropriate, that you shouldn't be feeling that way. What do you think happens when you tell a child that the emotion that naturally comes up in their body isn't good, isn't right, isn't valid? Well, it came up, I felt it. How does that child's brain understand and interpret that? Well, if the emotion isn't good, then I'm not good. If the feeling isn't appropriate, then I'm inappropriate. When we tell children that they shouldn't feel what they feel, they understand that they shouldn't be what they are, that there is something wrong with me. This is an epidemic in our society. So many of us are walking around with this deep-seated, fearful belief that there's something wrong with us. And so much of that came from learning when we were kids that we shouldn't feel the way we feel. And if the emotions that naturally arise in my body are wrong, well then there must be something wrong with me. So we need to look at the emotion and address what the child is feeling instead of trying to change their behavior. And we have to start with the understanding that those emotions make sense, they're valid. So let's start with anger, because that's probably the hardest one. Anger is really triggering for most people, myself included. So when a child is angry, this is the second big mindset shift we need to make. When a child is angry, they are afraid. This is true for adults too. You might not even recognize this in yourself, and that's because anger is doing its job. If you're angry and you can't find the fear, that means your anger is working, because that's anger's job. When I am being attacked and I need to fight back and protect myself, I can't afford to be afraid. I need the motivating power of anger to do what is necessary to protect myself. I cannot let fear paralyze me or hold me back. And so anger is a powerful emotion that drives us to protect ourselves in response to a perceived threat. I don't need anger if I'm not in danger. So wherever there is anger, it means that that person, child or adult, perceives that they are in danger, which means on some level, they are afraid. If you take nothing else away from this video, I hope that you'll hold on to this idea and this awareness. Because everywhere in the world, everywhere in your life that you see anger, if you can begin to look behind that and see the fearful child that is underneath every single person's anger, it's going to give you so much greater insight into why they are lashing out and acting in the way they are, and it's going to also give you a lot more compassion. So it makes a lot of sense that kids get angry after divorce, right? Everything is changing. It's scary. It feels unsteady and uncertain. Children need emotional safety. They need to know that their caregivers are emotionally available, that they're accessible and responsive to the needs of that child. But here, things are tumultuous. Divorce is happening. Mom and dad are distracted. They are struggling with their own emotional pain. It's not surprising that a child might feel frightened or unsupported in that environment. And I hope what you're seeing as we talk about this is that what your kids need is not for the family to be back together. That's not the necessary ingredient for them to be okay. What they need is for an adult in their lives to be emotionally available, responsive, and attentive to their emotional needs. And if you are so focused on your failure as a parent because of the divorce, or if you're so focused on reviving your marriage for your kids, guess what? You are not emotionally accessible. You are not emotionally responsive to them in this present moment. They don't need you to fix what's happened in the past. They don't need you to make the future perfect for them. They need you to be here right now with them in what they're feeling. It's all that any of us need, honestly. What does this look like? You have a child who's acting out, they're angry. Maybe it's taking place at school, maybe it's in the home, maybe it's with their siblings. The very first thing you have to do is look past the anger and remember the fear. Because what that's going to do is diffuse your own anger. It's natural to get angry when somebody else is angry. And it's like this triggering cycle of defense mechanisms. This person is angry and they come at me all aggressively. I feel attacked. I perceive a threat. I have to get angry to defend myself. But it's a child. It is a kid on the floor throwing a temper tantrum. When we get angry at that child, we're responding to a threat ourselves. What is the threat? For a lot of parents, the threat you're responding to is your own self-judgment. You see that child acting out, you see them struggling, your brain says, this is my fault. I failed them. I wasn't a good parent. And then we try to go and control the child's behavior in order to prove to yourself that you are a good parent, that you did well, that they're going to be okay. In that moment, you're getting caught up in your own fears, your own doubts, your own stories about yourself, and you're not being present for your child. So instead of responding to their anger, if you can take a deep breath and recognize that you're not in danger right now, that their behavior is not a threat to you, that's going to help you stay grounded and look behind it. This child is acting out. Where is the fear? Where is the pain? The second thing we have to start to do is to allow their anger. I don't mean that you just allow them to destroy things or act out, but we have to stop telling children that it's not okay to be angry. Anger is important. We want our kids to have healthy relationships, to have healthy boundaries. They're going to need access to the resources of anger. Anger is a voice that stands up and says, hey, I matter. I'm here. I'm important. If you want your child to have healthy self-esteem, you have to stop telling them that their anger isn't valid. So instead of punishing a child's anger, we can acknowledge it. Wow, I see that you are so angry right now. What is that like for you? And this is where it can actually get kind of fun with kids, because one of the best ways to help yourself or someone else move through an emotion is to acknowledge it and then explore what it's like to be in that state. Because now we're not resisting it, we're not fighting it, we're not shutting down this response. Because remember what happens if you try to shut down anger. Anger is there to protect you, to save your life, to assert your sense of identity and who you are in the world. If you say no to that, if you resist it, it's not just going to go away, it's going to get stronger, because those are important things to fight for. So when we remove that resistance, when we allow the anger, when we name it and recognize it, then we can get curious. Well, what is it? How do you know you're angry? What does that feel like? Kids will tell you what their anger feels like. They're feeling it in their body. Invite a child, instead of punishing the behavior, invite them to talk about the anger. Not even the why they're angry, how they're angry. What is that like? I see that you're so angry. Where do you feel that? What do you want to do? Maybe they want to scream. Maybe it's hot in their chest. Maybe they feel this pressure in their heads. Get curious. What is it like for that little person to be in that body, feeling that emotion? You don't know unless you ask them. When you ask your child what it is like to be in that anger, you are doing several things for them. You're helping them name what they're feeling. You're giving a word to it. Instead of saying, don't feel this, it's not good, you're saying, okay, you're angry, I see that. You're giving them language. You're helping them accept what they're feeling and get curious about it. What is that? What is that doing in your body? What is that like? Can you be brave enough to sit with your child in their anger and be curious about what that experience is like for them, instead of trying to change it or fix it? If you can start to do that, what you'll see is that they actually move through that anger. You're creating the emotional safety. You're offering the connection and support that they were lacking, that created the threat that led to the need for anger in the first place. The greatest gift you can give your children is to stop resisting what they feel and start being curious about who they are and what it's like to be living this experience through their bodies. Doing this successfully takes a degree of detachment, because as long as you are blaming yourself for everything your child thinks, feels, or does, you are going to be stuck constantly trying to fix it for them. The reality is that your children, from the moment they were born, are their own people. Yes, for many years of their life, they are dependent on you. Yes, they learn from you. Yes, you help them understand how to be in relationship and how to form connections and how to survive and stay safe in the world. Yes, you are important, but they are their own person. And that has been true from the moment that they were born. So as long as you are blaming yourself for everything they think and feel and do, when you do that, you are taking that away from them. You are denying them their own agency, their own individuality. Allow your children to be who they are. Be curious about who they are. Be curious about what they're feeling, but stop trying to control it. When you give them back some responsibility, when you allow them to be who they are and feel what they feel, what you'll see is that they feel safer with you. You're no longer denying who they are. Every time you tell somebody that what they feel isn't okay, that they shouldn't feel that, you're telling them that you don't understand them, that you don't see them or appreciate them for who they are. You're telling them that it's not safe to be themselves, to be honest with you. That is the opposite message of what you want to give your kids. What they need to not need anger anymore is emotional safety. And when you deny what they're feeling, you are proving to them that they're not emotionally safe with you. The last thing I want to offer you is my perspective as a child of divorce myself. My parents got divorced when I was 6 years old. And what I'd like you to know from my side of this is that you have so much time. It's okay if you don't do this perfectly right now. We are all living this big, messy human experience. There are things that I learned about relationships, about emotional safety during my parents' divorce and after, that I am still understanding right now. And the beautiful thing is I am still doing that exploration and that work with my parents. I just spent a week with my mom, and together we noticed some patterns that we both have. And if we can let go of the judgment and the blame of where those came from, we can get curious together. Gosh, what is it like to be me as an adult all these years later, noticing some of these patterns coming up? What is it like for her? You know, you as a parent, or your parents, if you're recognizing any of the ways that they responded to your emotions, none of that is intentional or malicious or bad. is learned, right? Your parents probably told you not to get angry, don't cry, be a strong man, manage your anger, don't respond that way. We pass on these lessons of managing the behaviors instead of the emotions. This is not anyone's fault. This isn't your fault as a parent. This isn't your parents' fault for the way they taught you and responded to you as a child. This is a bigger cycle occurring in our society, a story that we have as a culture about emotions and actions and behaviors. It is baked into our legal systems, into our prison systems. This is so much bigger than any of us. So please don't blame yourself for the way you've responded to your children in the past. Don't blame your parents for the way they responded to you. You are not responsible for being where you are. We have all been taught this, we are all part of this cycle, but now that you have some awareness, you are responsible for how you choose to move forward. When we don't know that we're caught in these cycles, when we don't have the understanding, we can't step out of it. But now that you have this little bit, this piece of understanding about the relationship between emotion and action, about the fear under the anger, now you get to choose. How do you want to respond to other people's anger? Do you want to stay on the surface in that cycle of anger triggering anger where no one is ever emotionally safe? Or do you want to break through and see if you can really sit with and understand what somebody else is feeling and help them experience that safety that allows the anger to dissipate? And we all have a choice. And it's never too late. It doesn't matter if your kids are 6 months old or 40 years old. There is so much time and opportunity to heal these past wounds and set ourselves and the people we love free from some of these patterns. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.